Don't change any more than 3 habits at a time.
Our guest today is Ashdin Doctor, who is widely known as the Habit Coach.
I've heard about business coach after life coach. Who is a habit coach?
What I realized was people weren't focusing on those daily actions. That's when the idea of habit coaching came about.
He is the founder of Awesome 180, host of the Habit Coach podcast.
Actually, not motivation, but habits that matter a lot.
Motivation, according to me, as a habit coach, is a bad word. How many times do we read this? Wake up in the morning and squeeze a green papaya and then have this. You will lose 10 kilos. Nonsense.
A sought-after public speaker and the author of 4 best-selling books on habits.
How can people overcome phone addiction?
Understand there are companies spending billions and billions and billions of dollars to get you addicted. It is not your fault that you are addicted.
How do we keep going, even though if you don't see results, by just doing the small habits?
You will not see the results. So you have to wait.
You talk about these 3 golden rules of habit change.
3 golden rules of habit change go like this. The first golden rule is
Hello and welcome to the Compounding Project podcast, where we talk about taking small steps to become healthy, wealthy, and wise. I'm your host Sathishgajula, and this episode is all about wisdom, especially habit formation. Ashdin, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Very excited to be here.
All right, yeah. I mean, before I hit record, I was talking about habits. I'm a big believer in habits, and I'm excited for this conversation because I've never done a podcast episode solely focusing on just habits. So I'm very, very excited for this conversation. So I want to dive right in. I've heard about a business coach. I've heard about a life coach, but I've never heard about a habit coach. Like, who is a habit coach? Like, where did that come from?
So I had to create this whole habit coaching industry because at that point of time, a habit coach as an idea didn't exist. So you, like you rightly said, you had life coaches. What I realized was that people weren't focusing on those daily actions that they could take. A life coach would come in and show you a grand vision of what you wanted from life. What are the things that were possibly holding you back? But they weren't actually talking about the little day-to-day actions that were coming up. And I realized that there was a lot of potential to understand habits as a rule because I loved habits. My journey with habits started many, many years before coaching when I was doing qualitative research, which is my family business. And I created a product on habits because I realized that people bought products based on habits. Brushing your teeth, the way you bought your toothpaste, all of those were habit-based. So it was all about understanding habits. And when I went online and I searched, are people coaching people on habits? I didn't find anything called a habit coach. In fact, we own the trademark for habit coach. So I said that this is a potential opportunity here. And that's when the idea of habit coaching came about. It started because lots of people would come and tell me, Ashdin, I don't have motivation. I don't have self-discipline. And this is where habit coaching came in to tweak it and say, you don't need motivation. You don't need self-discipline. What you actually need are small daily actions that you do. And then you see what happens in the long run after that. So that was the whole direction in which we took habits.
So yeah, that seems so controversial. Like, when we want to change a life, we think about motivation. We see all these transformations, right? We see, okay, they're so motivated, they have so much willpower. But you're saying the opposite, like it's actually not motivation, but habits that matter a lot. But can you expand more on that?
So motivation, according to me, as a habit coach, is a bad word. So we never use motivation. Oh, I'm motivated to do that means 100% you're not going to be doing it. If you're motivated to do something 100%, you're going to fail at it. Because motivation is very short-lived. It only lasts for a very short period of time. Beyond that, what you need is something that's going to be slow burning, something that's going to continue you on that journey. And that is when the whole idea of habits comes in. So the habits is, for example, you can think of, and I think in the book that you've read, I've given the example of how motivation is a matchstick. You light it and it burns bright, but you cannot cook a meal on a matchstick. You need to light a stove. And that stove are your habits. And that's what keeps the entire, flame going and the cooking happening. So that is how you start thinking about habits, something that can continue going ahead.
I love it. Like, yeah, more instead of thinking more about motivation, just think about like habits in terms of like small steps. Yeah, I would definitely love it. I think maybe we jumped a little forward, but like, can we define like what exactly is a habit? I mean, it's a term that I believe it's loosely used, over the internet, right? I mean, can you talk about like what habits are? And you also talked about like habits routines and rituals in your book. Can you talk about that? What
Of
exactly
course,
they are?
of
Yeah.
course. So the way to think about habits are like this. I define habits as any conscious or subconscious action or thought repeated at a set frequency. Now, there are many, many different definitions of habits. You go to Webster's, they'll give you a different definition. Wikipedia will give you a different definition. This is my definition after working with all these people over the years. Conscious or subconscious? Very often we think of habits as only being subconscious. I don't know how it happened. I don't even remember doing it. It just happens automatically. When did my hand go and pick up that potato chip from the bowl? I don't know, right? Subconscious. However, not all actions or habits are subconscious. For example, you can't subconsciously go to a gym, right? You have to very consciously go to a gym, otherwise you'll drop a weight on your head. So it's not a subconscious thing that you're doing. So hence, not all are subconscious. The second part is very important. Very often we think of habits only as actions. Tying your shoelaces or brushing your teeth. All of those things are considered actions, but our thoughts are also habits. The way we think, the way we, consciously keep thinking to ourselves, I am not good enough. I don't have enough money. I don't have the ability to do this. All of these become our habits. You wake up every morning and you keep saying to yourself, oh, today is going to be a boring day. Today is going to be a boring day. Today is going to be a boring day. And today will be a boring day because that's how it is created. Our mind creates these thoughts and our thoughts create, the world around us. So our thought habits are also very, very important. And when I work with people, thought habits are actually the main thing. And the last part is set frequency. So very often people say, I do the crossword. It's a habit. When do you do it? I do it, once in a week, once in 2 weeks. So that's not a set frequency, right? It's too long. So that's not a habit. It's a once in a while thing. So that's how you start thinking about habits. It's not, it has to happen at a set frequency every alternate day, every 3 hours. And that's the way to start thinking about habits. Conscious, subconscious actions or thoughts, set frequency. Now, what's interesting is that the habit or the thought is one component of it. But you have multiple habits that come together. They form almost like a train. It's like one habit pulls all the other habits with it. So I call it a habit train. You need just one starting habit and everything else follows along. In the same way, you wake up in the morning, you do something, you get out of your bed and you go to the toilet. Immediately once you go to the toilet, you pick up your brush, you put your toothpaste, you started a train of habits. So these trains form what we call routines. So you have a morning routine, you have an afternoon routine, you have a work routine, you have a podcast routine. So all of these form routines. And finally, these routines put together, plus an emotion, forms a ritual. If I don't have my coffee in the morning, don't talk to me. That forms a ritual. That's what I'm saying. So this is how you start thinking about habits in a whole. So you think about individual habits, routines, and rituals.
Got it. I mean, that's the best definition I've ever found. I was always like looking, these terms are almost sometimes like they're used interchangeably also, right? I mean, that's not a routine that I would do, but now, this book, the definition, now it's more clear now. There's something interesting that you said when it comes to unconscious thoughts. I mean, I've always looked at habits when it comes to actions, right? But you said something very interesting about unconscious thoughts, and mindset, the language that I use. Let's say I used to use like I'm not good at math, or I'm not good at being consistent. So is there something we can change? Because I've heard this quote, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, right? So can we change our unconscious thoughts?
Lovely. So the key thing is to understand that you can teach old dogs many, many new tricks. There is no such thing as you can't teach an old dog new tricks. The reason why I'm saying this is that I work with people who are 75 years old as well and completely change their mindset and their habits around. So you can easily teach this. So here's the way to think about this, and this is critical. Our thoughts, when we say them, become intentions. And once you say it, you take action. It follows that sequence. So it actually starts with your thoughts. Everything starts with your thoughts. And very often we are unaware of the kinds of thoughts that we're having at a daily basis, right? Become subconscious. So our job is to make those subconscious thoughts conscious. Very often we go through life saying that, oh, I'm like this, oh, I'm like that. Where have these thoughts come from? They've firstly been implanted in you from your parents, right? Their limiting beliefs or non-limiting beliefs have been transferred onto you. The second level comes from society, what you see people doing around you, and those thoughts that can imprinted in you, which is why it's so difficult to break out. For example, when you are in a neighborhood that is poor, that poor mindset has been so engraved in you because of the society that you're in, that it takes a lot to pull you out. So in fact, one of the things I tell people, when you have that poverty mindset, or like, oh, I don't have enough money, I don't think I'll ever be able to do this, is to go and sit in a 5-star restaurant or a 5-star hotel. You start seeing the kind of wealth around you, it changes and rewires these thoughts in your mind. These are all subconscious thoughts. You don't even realize that they're happening. If you're with people who are constantly overeating, never go to the gym, lethargic, and you suddenly go and start spending time in a gym, in a place that is fitness oriented, you're rewiring your thoughts. So what we're doing is we're rewiring these thought habits that we have. And soon, by default, if you were ordering a burger or a pizza, you might say, okay, let me think about what else I can order. Maybe I'll order grilled chicken instead. So what you're doing is you're rewiring these thoughts. And as soon as you said, maybe I'll order a grilled chicken instead, that thought that you rewired, that thought habit, has now changed into an action. That action is what's going to change your life. So coming back to how do you think about thought habits, the way that I like to look at it is you sit down with a piece of paper and you first write down all your belief systems. Belief systems are things that you've taken for granted.
We'll get back to the episode in just a few seconds. 94% of people who watch this channel haven't subscribed. If you're enjoying this episode, can you do me a quick favor and hit that subscribe button? It helps the channel grow and brings in even more guests so that I can provide more value to you in the future episodes. Now, back to the episode.
I have to grow up, earn money, get married, have 3 kids. Belief system. Who's told you have to do this? Parents have told you, society has told you. Even worse, who's told you? TV has told you. So many things we learn from our television. Right? Television is constantly feeding us all these thoughts. And television is built for drama. So if you actually learn from television, you're learning for creating drama in your life. That is why so many people have drama in their life, because half the things that they do, they've learned from television. The whole dating scene right now that is going on in India, abroad, is all learned from television. Watching Friends, watching other shows like that. And you're like, that is normal. I'm also going to start thinking like that. Is where this whole subconscious thoughts start taking place. And all of these things are feeding into us. Now, because they're subconscious, we very soon wonder, why am I living a life like this? Why is my life like this? Because you've picked up all these things subconsciously. You didn't realize that they were coming in. So our first job is to make the subconscious conscious. How do we do that? By awareness, sitting down and writing down all our belief systems. Once you got that, you go through the day, and every time you have a troubling thought or a negative thought or a thought that you realize and wonder, where did this come from? You write it down. And then the second step is you dismantle this thought. Dismantle means what? You ask, is there any truth to this? Or I will never be a millionaire. Is there any truth to this? Oh, I will never get a girlfriend. Is there any truth to this? And as soon as you ask that, you'll probably get an answer saying, no, there's no truth to this. Or you ask the question, where is the proof? Like how as a detective, you say, where is the proof? Saboot kahan hai? That is what we're looking at. And you ask yourself, where is the proof? Is there truth to this? And automatically these thoughts start slowly getting dismantled, and you will get a different format of thoughts that come in place. And it's this different format of thoughts that will start changing your life and moving it in a different direction. So these subconscious thoughts are extremely important. And I wish all of us at least became aware of all the conversations that are happening in our mind that we're not even aware of.
I mean, that's such a powerful concept. There are so many nuggets in what you just said. I want to unpack a few right there. Basically, with this self-awareness, right? I've told you before we hit record, I've been obsessed with reading books and stuff. And one major learning that I learned from that books is like self-awareness. Actually, what we tell our mind plays a crucial role. Let's say, if now. Like, if I want to go to gym now, actually, if I'm physically capable, I can go to the gym, right? Let's say if I come up with an excuse, right? It's raining outside, it's snowing outside, it's too hot outside. I can tell myself, I don't want to go to the gym, and you'll still sit up at the gym. It's not just about the physical capability, but it's actually what we tell our mind. It's such an important concept. I'm glad we're talking about this awareness. So I want to maybe get into the yeah, practical like applications of all these theories, right? So there you talked about in your book, by the way, like your book is Change Your Habits and Change Your Life. This is such a good book. I mean, I've recently read it over a weekend, and I'm going to read it probably. There's so many nuggets right there. So you talk about these 3 golden rules of habit change, which I found to be very practical, actually simple and practical. So can you talk about them?
Lovely. So the 3 golden rules of habit change go like this. I started working with many people. There are so many different theories on habit change. The Power of Habits talks about the habit loop. Atomic Habits talks about the loop and adds one more step in it. And I realized that many people aren't following these loops when it comes to habits, because they're trying to do it and then they're tripping up over that last part, which is the reward part. They're not getting the idea of what a reward is. So they're going for a walk and then having an ice cream afterwards as a reward for that walk. And the reward connection is completely off. So I said, can we create something that you can start implementing immediately on how do you form habits? And I started using this with my clients. So we formed 3 golden rules. The first golden rule is make it stupidly small. Stupidly small. What is stupidly small? The idea is that you make the action so small that you feel stupid not doing it. So for example, if you want to create a yoga habit, and that's the example that I've given in the book as well, so we'll talk about that. If you want to create a yoga habit, normally what people do is they say, I will do a 1 hour class every day, right? Then they'll miss that class, won't be able to do it, or they'll join an online program. And if they have only 15 minutes, but not 1 hour, they will say, oh, I can't do this, let me skip it. And that's the problem that we create. Oh, I'm feeling a little tired today, you know what, I'll miss yoga. Instead, what you do is you make that habit stupidly small. So your only yoga habit is to take that yoga mat out and roll it on the floor and sit on it. Now that anyone can do. It is very easy to do. What that does is that shows you that stupidly small habit. Now, even if you don't have 1 hour, if you have say 5 minutes, at least you sat down on the mat. Now that you've done that, you might do at least 2 Surya Namaskars, you might do a little stretching, you might touch your toes. You'll do a little something which you would have completely missed out on if you had thought about your habit as being a 1 hour habit. So that stupidly small gives you that ability to come down and do that one little action. That's golden rule number 1.
I want to talk about, maybe like dig deeper into the one before we go to we have a few questions right there. So basically, I've been practicing this principle for a long time now, like this small habits and stuff, right? So there is something called this all or nothing approach. Like people go either like, they go all in or they go all out, right? Just like you said, like, either I have time for 1 hour gym or I'm not going to do it. And then, so I started implementing something called all or something, which is, either you go work out for 1 hour or go, if you don't have time, do at least like 5 minutes of workout, right? So the major question, when I tell this concept to my friends, the major question that I get is like, what happens with like, 5 minutes of workout, right? Like, let's say in the yoga example that you just talked about, like what happens with, 1 minute of yoga, it's not going to move the needle. Like, why should I even care? So what would you respond to that?
So there are 2 parts to this. We'll talk about it from a yoga point of view and I'll talk about a finance point of view. Okay, because compounding, people talk about money more than they talk about any other aspect of it. So let's understand these 2 parts. The first part, from a yoga point of view, as soon as you do that exercise or as soon as you do that action, the first thing is happening is that you're creating an identity. I am the kind of person that does not miss my yoga. I am the kind of person that is a yoga enthusiast. I am the kind of person that does yoga every day. You're creating that identity. Even though you didn't do 1 hour of it, you did the small thing. You even just wore your yoga pants and you sat down. Fantastic. I am the kind of person that shows up. This itself reinforces. This itself creates an identity that's positive. This itself creates a trajectory for your life where it tells you that you are the kind of person that does what they say they will do. People say, Ashdin, you sound so confident, you're so confident. Where does the confidence come from? Confidence comes from doing the things that you say you will do. If you say you're going to do this, do this. You say, I'm going to turn up at 7 o'clock for this podcast, I will be there at 7 o'clock for this podcast. That's where all the confidence actually comes from. And what that tiny action does is it reinforces that confidence in you. The second thing that happens is that you don't know what that little one Surya Namaskar did for you. Maybe at that point of time, your ankle was a little tight and you could have twisted it on the way out. It just opened it up just that little bit. That little tiny action also helps. And this is where I come to the money space. When we talk about money, people say, I'm not going to invest till I have at least $1,000 in the bank account. I will not invest till I've got at least this. But we've realized that even if you start investing $10, $5, 10 rupees, 20 rupees, whatever minimum amount you can put in, what happens is you've created, one, the habit of investing, but two, that little amount of money is still doing something instead of just sitting in your bank and doing nothing. So that is the way to start thinking about it. That little bit is also far better than zero, and any number is better than zero, right? So that is how we think about it.
Yeah, that's actually the finance example that you're talking about. The very first time I heard it from the book Compound Effect by Darren Hardy.
Correct.
And that book talked about it, and I actually could not believe it. I thought, like, how would, like, a dollar a day or, $5 a month would turn into billions, right? I could not believe it. I actually went and calculated, like, in the Excel sheet. I did that calculation, like, for somebody who's listening or watching, right? Just try doing that math, compound, maybe like $100 a month, and then at 10% per year, right? And then try compounding it for 40 years. Your mind will blow, like, for sure. Like, this is real. Like, I'm the living example of it, for sure. The next question that I have is when it comes to the results itself, right? What would, like, how would we stay? I know you don't like motivation, but how do we think about, like, I'm not getting results. Let's say, 5 minutes of gym every day. The difference between having, going to the gym for 5 minutes or 1 hour, like, you don't see the results immediately. You look almost the same, and except that you think that you spent or wasted 1 hour in the gym versus you could have done something else. Like, you don't see the results, but how do we keep going? Even though if you don't see results, by just doing the small habits.
So there are two parts to this. One is that you will not see the results. Even if you do 1 hour a day, half an hour a day, you will not see the results. In fact, when I used to have a fitness business, I used to tell people this. For the first 2 months, you will not see anything change. In the next 4 months, you will start seeing a change yourself, but nobody else will be able to start seeing a change. 6, 7, 8 months later on, people will start asking you, what do you do? So you have to wait for that 6, 7, 8 months in order for other people to at least start complimenting you. For the first few, it's nothing. It's just basically spinning the wheels, getting the motion in. After that, you will start feeling a little different, mindset-wise, body-wise, before other people can actually see it. So you have to be extremely patient. When it comes to money, the way that me and my family invest our money is we put it in the bank account and forget about it. It's almost like it doesn't exist for us. Because you're looking at something that is so long term that if you in the short term keep reviewing, you'll get anxiety. So you think long term and let it go. But the key part is that whatever action that you've decided to do, you need to first make sure that you've done enough research on it. Very often, most people are taking action on things that they read in magazines, they got from their aunties, people who themselves are not showcasing the result. So, there's one broke uncle who's told you how to invest your money. Don't, expect results from that, because in any case, the information that you're getting is wrong. So most of us are getting the wrong information. In fact, the idea of the Habit Coach podcast was this, to make sure that we break myths, showcase the right kind of information that people need. Because I went through that as well. I did so many different kinds of workouts that got me no results whatsoever, because they were designed for something else. My goal was something else. How many times do we read this, wake up in the morning and squeeze a green papaya and then have this and put this inside it and you will lose 10 kilos? Nonsense. That's not how life works. But what we have to do is we have to realize that we need the right kind of information. Once you get the right kind of information, check the sources, check the scientific research. Once you do that, then trust the process. So that is the key part. Once you get all the research and you know what you're doing is eventually going to give you the results, then put the time in and then stop waiting for the results to happen. We wait for the results to happen. It's like an old example where we plant a seed, we water it, and you can't see it growing. So what do? You dig it up. And every time you dig it up, you've killed it. So you start again. Is the root growing? Is the root growing? Is the root growing? We pick it up every time and we say, now it's grown this much, but the plant is dead. So that's what we keep doing. We check and kill it. We need to change that approach. Know what you're doing, trust the process, and then stop evaluating and waiting for that reward immediately. It's a long-term thing that you have to think about.
Yeah, I love that phrase, like trust the process, because like in the compounding, the results are always delayed. Like, it's just a hockey stick growth. So we just have to be patient and trust the process. I love that. So can you talk about the second golden rule of habit change? Yeah.
So the second golden rule of habit change is called make it extremely easy. EE, extremely easy. Extremely easy is all about removing friction. Friction is anything that will give you an possible excuse. Oh, I don't have time. Oh, this is so hard to do. Oh, I don't have the right clothes to wear. Oh, this has happened. Oh, my daughter's in the room. Anything that's going to give you an excuse means that it is not extremely easy. So every time you're given your excuse on a particular habit, it means that you need to go back and tweak it to make sure it becomes extremely easy. It has to become like makhan. It has to become like a well-oiled machine. There is no friction. It just slides through. You don't even realize that you're doing it. So for example, if you keep all your healthy food on the top shelf in your kitchen, you will never reach it. Too much friction. You have to get a stool to take it out. At the same time, all the junk food is kept on the dining table. Correct? So it's so easy to pick it up. So what you need to realize is that you have to remove the friction from the process. Anytime you realize there's friction, something stopping you, you go back and reevaluate and make it easy for yourself to do.
I think that priming that environment part is something that I can totally relate to now, because it's just like you said, right? I mean, removing the friction, it might seem so small, but there are I actually practically implemented this in my personal life. I've placed books all around the house, even on the living room, replaced my remote, with books, and even my wife's table also, I put some books. I mean, she didn't have the intention of reading books, but just because it's there, she just picked up a book and then started reading it. I mean, she didn't have the intention, but it's just that there's no friction, right? Versus if that book would have been in the closet, or it was hidden somewhere, right? Your mind basically doesn't think about it. I read somewhere that 54% of our visual processing, 54% of our brain is dedicated for visual processing. So it's so key, removing that friction and changing our environment. It's such a beautiful concept. So can you talk
Eyes
about
are the only part of the brain that you can see. So it's practically like your eyes are your brain. So you can imagine how big and how important visual is for us as human beings.
Exactly. Can you talk even maybe give more practical examples? Let's say when it comes to health, wealth, and also wisdom, which we talk about during this podcast. Can you give some practical examples?
Sweet. Health, wealth, and wisdom. Those are the three categories. Okay, nice. So when it comes to health, there are 2-3 things that you can do on making things extremely easy. So, for example, what is an extremely easy thing that you can do for sleep? Having, you have a lamp at the back, right? Having a lamp so that you can switch off all these bright lights and slowly move towards nighttime. That's something very easy that you can do. Another very easy thing is never sit on your bed once you've woken up. So never go back to your bed once you've woken up, because what happens is that you need to give your body a cue saying, if I'm in this position on this place, it means only sleep. It doesn't mean reading a book, doesn't mean watching Netflix, doesn't mean anything else. It's only for sleep. So health-wise, sleep is a very important part, and I think we need to all become champion sleepers. So sleep is very critical there. A smaller thing, for example, where you can remove the friction is the way that you set up your desk, where you're working, make it a standing desk, simple things like that. We are looking for very, very complex solutions. And whenever I talk to people, they say, but Ashton, all that you're telling me is very simple. I was like, but the simple things are the things you will do. If I give you a very complex way of thinking about, what, you to go out and now get a treadmill desk. And now when you're working, I want you to start walking. And you're realizing that, but every time I'm walking on a treadmill desk, I can't type because my hands are bouncing or the screen is shaking. And you realize it's impractical, you're not going to do it. Then you know what you think, okay, you know what Ashton said, use the treadmill desk. I will start using the treadmill desk on Zoom calls. And you realize every time you're on a Zoom call, that woo, 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 woo sound of the treadmill is constantly running. Now you're like, that also I can't use it for. So that treadmill desk completely gets used as. So don't go for those very advanced habits because they're not easy to implement. The easy stuff is easy because it's easy to do. Do it. Many of us don't even do the easy things. So let's start going back to start doing the easy things. So health wise, sleep is very critical. Movement is very critical. So what I do is I tell people go and do a 4-minute Tabata workout at least. If you just Google Ashdin Doctor Tabata, you'll find lots of Tabata workouts that I've done. Just follow them along, do them. It makes life easy. 4 minutes of exercise, everyone has the time to do. Then when you're talking about wealth, simple things like asking yourself, do I really need this before you buy something? That impulse purchase, if you break it, it's very easy to retain it. There's an old expression that a penny saved is a penny earned. That means that if you were just going to waste that money and you've held on to it, it's technically like you've earned that money.
Hey, before we get back to the episode, I've got something special for you. I spent the last 3 months putting together my top 100 life-changing books. The link is in the description and I would love for you to check it out. Now, let's get back to the episode.
One of the best things I do is I impulsively put things in my Amazon cart, but I wait the next day to buy them. So you impulsively, I want this, put it in your cart, no problem. But the next day is when you review it and buy it. What happens is by the next day, you're like, you know what, I don't really need that. Okay, fine, cool. So that is one way of thinking about it. Another one is, and this is something that I especially tell people in America because they're forever going out and buying coffee. Right? They'll pick up a coffee on their way to work, pick up a coffee on their way back home, pick up a coffee in the afternoon, and they don't realize the amount of money that they're wasting in just these coffees that they're buying from elsewhere. So a simple thing to do is every alternate coffee, instead of the coffee, you think about buying the share in that company. Because the coffee and the share cost about the same. So you buy a share in that company instead of the coffee. And what you've done is you automatically put that money to work instead of being consumed. These little things make a difference. So, almost like how you have that stamp card. I bought you bought 6 coffees from this particular shop. If you bought 6 coffees from this particular shop, go and buy 6 shares in that. And what happens is that you start thinking about money very differently. This is the thought process that you're looking at. Oh, I could have actually invested this instead of buying this. And that's how you start tweaking your mind around. And when it comes to wisdom, wisdom is what? Wisdom is taking information, processing it into knowledge, and putting your experience on top of it. So, the way to think about wisdom is in 3 steps. Learn, do, and teach. Okay, so you learn something new. You join an online course, you saw an interesting podcast like this, you read a book, you learn something. You immediately put it into implementation. So implement it immediately, put it into action. So that is the do part, right? You heard about this coffee habit. Fantastic. If you're buying 3 coffees a day, now you buy 2 coffees and 1 share. Brilliant. So you implement it and you do it. You see the result. And then you immediately teach it to somebody else. So what have you done? You've got information and knowledge. You've got information and knowledge, correct? Then you've got the practical application of the doing. So you've got experience, which then turns into wisdom. And it's a very simple thing. So actually the reason why my podcast started was because I learned so much stuff and I wanted to immediately practice and teach. So every single episode, like you mentioned, 1,500 episodes, right? Every single episode, I would have actually done that habit. If I've not done it, I would not have told anybody about it, because the confidence comes only from doing. Till you don't do it, you don't have that confidence. And that is the journey that you have to take. So learn, do, teach. This is something that I learned from one of my guests on the podcast, Siddharth Rajshekhar. So that's how, I learned this, immediately implemented, and then used it.
Yeah, and these are like great advice. I'm getting a lot of nuggets here because I'm obsessed with this compounding and its application in health, wealth, and wisdom. And I'm seeing this practical advice in each of these areas. I'm just loving this conversation. So we talked about rule number 1: keep it stupidly small. Rule number 2: remove the friction. Right,
Extremely easy.
extremely easy. And then can you walk us through the third golden rule of habit change?
What happens is that many of us have been brought up to believe that habits have to happen every day. We have these habit trackers, we have these 21 days. If you do it for 21 days, you formed a habit, congratulations, woohoo, all of that. But what we don't realize is that life comes in the way. You have a child, sometimes the child is sick, sometimes the child doesn't allow you to do that habit, sometimes you have to go out for a birthday party, sometimes you have to go out for this. Something or the other is always happening. When that happens, what happens to us? We feel guilty that we are not doing this habit. We feel guilty that we missed it. That guilt eats us up. We must realize that we are human beings and not robots. We are creating systems for humans. We are not creating systems for robots. As a human, life comes in the way and you need to give that space to it. Monday in Bombay, it was raining cats and dogs. Everything was thunder, lightning. It felt like it was 7 in the evening at 9 in the morning. There was no way I felt like going to the gym. Okay, like you gave this example in our conversation a while ago. What if it's raining outside? I don't feel like going to the gym. No problem. How much guilt did I have? Zero guilt. Because I knew I would do it the next day. What happens is that when we become so strict on ourselves, we begin to hate the habit, we begin to hate ourselves. When we are more calm, when we are more peaceful in this approach, we can do it longer. Remember, the whole idea of any of this is compounding, right? Which means for the rest of your life. So it is not short-term gains. It is long-term gains. That means you have to be very, very peaceful and very, very okay with it for the long term. If you're very, hard on yourself, you can only do it for a short term, right? So the whole go hard, go home mentality doesn't work here. Never miss 2 days in a row goes like this. Monday you did the habit. Tuesday you did the habit. Everything's going smooth. Wednesday it started pouring. Wednesday your child said, no, 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 I want you to spend time with me. No problem. Don't do that habit. But come what may, on Thursday, do the smallest part of that habit. So even if you don't go to the gym, just wear your gym clothes, wear your gym shoes and sit at home. That's the smallest part of that habit. Now, when you're wearing your gym clothes, gym shoes, maybe you'll do a few push-ups, maybe you'll do a few pull-ups, maybe you'll do a few squats. At least something has happened. So that is the way that you maintain this never miss 2 days in a row. And I'm so happy you gave that example earlier about the rain, because it actually happened this week. Monday it was pouring cats and dogs. There was no way I was going to get out. In fact, I wanted to sit at home, sip coffee and look outside the window, which is also a beautiful thing to do. I think in our current society, we are so hell-bent of, like I have to do this, habit stacking, hard work. No, 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 no. As human beings, we were designed to first be peaceful, first be relaxed. Then after that, you can add whatever it is that you want.
Yeah, love that as advice. Basically, when it comes to rush, right, you have this quote, I think from, is it Lao Tzu, which talked about like nature is never in rush, like never in rush. Rush is always patient, but it gets things accomplished, right? You see like trees are growing and then the water is flowing and everything happens, but it's never in rush. I love that. I love that.
That was the thing.
Yep, yep. When it comes to the this like a third golden rule of change, the immediate question that I had is, okay, we are humans. Like, life gets in the way. Let's say we have a sick child, or we are stressed at work, and then we might miss couple days, and then and then that becomes a new habit, right? Missing is a new habit. Right now, how do we actually get back on track with the life? Like if we are being practical, right? I mean, things happen. So how do we get back on track with our habits? I mean, we know that advice that we should never miss 2 days in a row. But yeah, what happens if you miss, and how do we get back on track?
So there are two things. One is whenever you're trying to change a habit, we call it falling off the wagon. Falling off the wagon means that you are on the wagon, you are riding, and then you hit a bump, and now you're on the ground. The idea of falling on the wagon is that it happens to everyone. It even happens to me as a habit coach. So you realize that falling off the wagon is a natural part of building a habit. But remember, you're not building a habit short term, you're building it for the long term. So you get up and say, get back onto the wagon. That's step one, getting back onto the wagon. The second part is realizing that these kind of things take place, especially when, for example, you go on a holiday. You're out of your daily routine for 10 days, 15 days, and you come back and you can't seem to get any of the habits back. So what you do is you create something known as an anchoring habit. An anchoring habit is a habit that holds the rest of your day together. So for example, my anchoring habit is having my coffee and sitting and doing my gratitude practice. That is my anchoring habit. Come what may, no matter where I am in the world, I will make my coffee, I will sit down and I will do my anchoring habit. When I come back to Bombay after a trip, I will do this and then I will follow whatever other habit that has been created. So going to the gym or getting ready, etc., etc. Many of us lose that anchoring habit, that one habit that is going to hold the rest of the day. For some people, it's a Tabata workout. For some people, it is their stretching routine. For some people, their evening habit could be coming home and going for a shower, and that goes for a toss. So what you do is you have some form of anchoring habit, and that is what holds the rest of your habits together. It's the habit that will help you get back onto the wagon faster, because we are trying to get back on the wagon faster. This anchoring habit pulls it. Remember the idea of the habit train? So that anchoring habit becomes like the engine pulling everything else along with it.
Yeah, like, is this the same as the keystone habits? I know it gets used a lot, right? Like keystone habits.
So keystone habits are different because keystone habits hold all the other habits together, right? So the keystone is, you put a keystone in the top and all the habits are then being held by that keystone. If you remove the keystone, everything else collapses. The way that I think of the anchoring habit is it pulls instead of holds. Okay, so for example, it is the first of the habits that would follow. So for me, the morning coffee is one of the first habits that will create my morning routine. When I reach the office, one of the first things that I do is I sit down and make my to-do list. So that to-do list is my anchoring habit, right? When I sit down to record a podcast, I have a set routine that I used to follow, which was I would sit down and I would first adjust my microphone, go through my script, make all those markings. All of that were my anchoring habit. It was the first of the habits that followed. A keystone habit is what holds everything else together. So for some people, their exercise is their keystone habit. Like if I don't do my exercise, I'm not going to possibly end up, I'm going to ruin the rest of the day also. So that is what a keystone habit is. So that's the way that I would differentiate between these two.
Yep, yeah, that's a big learning for me. I've never heard about this anchoring habit. Basically, like if we do that habit, the rest of the habit actually like it just follows like how automatically. But we just need to have that one anchoring habit. Yeah, that's a big learning for me as well. Let's see. I actually posted on my Instagram page that Ashdin Doctor will be on my podcast, and then I've asked my audience to give some questions, and then I've received a bunch of questions. I'm going to prioritize the first two. Actually, the first is actually it's a popular basically challenge that people face, like with phone addiction. I mean, we all know what to do. Like now audience have become so smart, looking at all these podcasts and reels and stuff. Like they're becoming smarter, but it's actually they can't implement it because of this time. Like we all have 24 hours a day, and then we're the phone addiction. They can't get away from the phone addiction. So that you said that action is a key, right? So we can't do that. So how can people overcome phone addiction?
In fact, I was having dinner yesterday with somebody who is a phone addiction specialist. So they're working with the Rotary on phone addiction. What's the first important thing to do with phone addiction is to realize that it is not your fault that you are addicted to your phone. So very often we become very guilty about how can I be addicted to this thing? Why is it ruining my life? And guilt comes in. Understand that there are companies spending billions and billions and billions of dollars to get you addicted. Now, if they're spending so much money trying to get you addicted, what possible hope does our small little mind have, brain have to fight that addiction? So please understand that it is something that is constantly being worked on to keep us addicted. The second thing is to realize that you can live without smoking, you can live without drinking, but in today's day and age, you can't live without your phone. It is an essential part of the way we live. So, understanding that I can remove smoking from your life, I can remove drinking from your life, but I cannot ask you to remove your phone. So, it is not about getting rid of your phone, but it is about the management of your phone. So you change the way in which you start thinking about this form of addiction. Otherwise, normally we think about all or nothing in terms of addictions, right? I'm either a full smoker or I'm not a smoker. It's not I'm a little smoker. But we have to become a little phone user, right? And that is the way to start thinking about it. What we can do is we can create certain rules in our environment. So, for example, no phones in the toilet, no phones in the bedroom, no phones on the dining table. These are three simple places where you can put a no phones criteria. And when you do that, what happens is that you realize already that you've removed it from where the toilet and the bathroom is where you spend most of your time on your phone in the morning. Everyone's sending messages to each other, checking Instagram at that point of time. On the dining table is when you want to be with your family. So that's when you remove it, because at least you get family time there. And in the bedroom, it's the worst thing because it disrupts your sleep or it disrupts your relationship. So as a result, at least these three places remove the phone from. When you're at work, I remember when we got mobile phones for the first time. Uh, Before that, we only had landlines, right? So we would come to office, and it was a rule that you had to switch off your mobile phone and keep it in your drawer, because you did not want your employees to be distracted, because you would have to play snake, etc. Now that obviously the phones have increased, the distraction levels are so much more. But at least follow the same principle. Take your phone and put it in your drawer. All of us have a drawer at our work. Put it in your drawer. If you realize that the temptation's too much, give it to your cubicle friend. Here, hold on to my phone, only give it to me after half an hour. So in this way, you start creating these little rules that are then going to affect the way that you approach your phone addiction. So the only way to overcome phone addiction is through managing it, not removing it. Many people are trying to, move to dumb phones, move to those old phones. It's not something that's sustainable. How will you call for an Uber? How will you do Swiggy? How will you do all those things? Use the phone by all means. Use ChatGPT, use everything on it. But manage how much time you're going to be spending on each of these things.
Yeah, I think it's just that we have to be a little mindful. Even I try to be very mindful with my time, like ruthless with my time. But I can totally relate. Let's say if I, have to do something on my phone, and if I grab my phone, I see the notifications, and then it's a rabbit hole, right? I mean, there are like smart engineers, like MIT, Harvard graduates who are working on developing that app or writing that code, right? And then I actually forget that reason why I picked up my phone, and then I go back to my desk and then realize, oh, okay, this is what I wanted to, and then go back. Like, I mean, they have engineered it so well that I think we have to be mindful. It's just that, I mean, I like that practical advice that you said. We don't have to give up our smartphones and then go to all these dumb phones, but because it's not sustainable. I mean, otherwise, I mean, we got to adapt with the changing world, but also like be mindful. Like, yeah, I love that.
Like, another thing you can do is always have a wire attached to your phone. So you turn your mobile phone into a landline phone. So you can't take it around the house. It is only at this particular spot that you can use it. That little things that you can do to just basically try and get that mobile phone addiction in check.
Yep. Definitely, that all the small habits add up. And then the second question that I got is with emotional eating. Emotional eating. So emotional eating is such a huge problem. Like, what do you say to someone who says, okay, I stuff myself when I'm stressed? I mean, I can relate to this one also. Like, yeah, I've had those days where when there's too much stress, I would just like give up everything and just, food is that pleasure, right? Food is my go-to, my escape, I would say. So what advice do you have for somebody who's struggling with emotional eating?
Two, three things. The first thing is that what are you eating for? You have to spend time evaluating it. You're eating because you're one, feeling empty. You're feeling empty inside, which is what you need something to fill yourself with, which is why you go back to emotional eating. So it's very often a feeling of sadness that exists. Fear is another reason why we do emotional eating. Oh my God, I don't know what's going to happen in the future, right? And that's actually something that is very related to humankind. When we didn't know if there was going to be a famine, we didn't know if you're going to get food, eat as much as you possibly can right now. So all these behaviors are hardwired into us. The third part is our relationship with food. Very often you'll realize that when you were a child, every time you were sad or angry or upset, somebody in your family fed you. So that relationship with food is what we have to tweak. And you have to realize that this is where it ends. We don't do this when we have our own child. We don't force feed and make them eat every time they're sad or they're feeling bad, etc., etc. What we have to realize is we have to disconnect the emotion with food. Food will make me feel happy. No, it's that dopamine rush that'll make you feel happy. It's only that first bite that makes you feel happy. It's not that entire big donut or that big hamburger that makes you feel happy. Even with coffee, it's the first two sips of coffee that make you feel that satisfaction. It's not that whole mug that makes you feel that satisfaction. So you have to start evaluating your relationship with food first. So I would not think of emotional eating as a habit change. I would first think of it as a mindset change. Go back to your belief systems. What is this food for me? Every time you say, oh, I live to eat, that itself shows you how much of an importance food is in your life. Oh, I'm only happy when I see Rajma Chawal on the table. Again, takes you back to, oh, this is what the importance of food is. For me, it was sugar. So my grandmother used to give me sugar whenever I was upset, sad, angry, happy, anything. Here, have sugar. So that became a default. For me, going for sweet things was the most natural thing. I would have chai with 2 spoons of sugar in it every day. Spoons are not teaspoons, spoons. So that is how I had attuned myself. The only way to break out of, for example, sugar issue is to do a 31-day no sugar challenge or a 100-day no sugar challenge, where you realize that you can live without sugar and you come up with the coping mechanisms. When it comes to emotional eating, what you do is every time you realize that this emotion is raising its head and I know the pattern, I'm going to possibly order this, what can I do instead? Can I go for a walk? Can I call a friend? So you give yourself alternatives that you can start doing instead of that food. And the other place where you will probably end up going and reaching for that brownie or a cake is when you're tired. When you come home tired from work, it's very hard to make good choices. You always default to what is easy and will make you feel good. So the salad will get left behind and the cake will be picked up. So what you have to do is you have to realize that you need to stop when you're at 40%. Recharge when you're at 40%. Don't wait till you're at 10% or 7%, because then the choices you make will be also poor.
Yeah, that's actionable advice right there. I mean, I love that. Yeah, especially like when I'm too hungry, I would just go nuts, and then I would just don't want. Now I mean, I just try to be mindful, just carry stuff around, because I know that if I'm hungry, my actual emotional eating kicks in, and then at that time I don't have control. And just like you said, like humans are hardwired to eat as much as we can, because of that famine, right? We don't know when the next small. Yeah, that's
Zero control.
powerful. Exactly, exactly. That's powerful. So we are getting towards the end of the podcast, and I'm want to be respectful of your time. We have just one last segment. I call them the hot seat questions. So the first question is regarding action. So we discussed about a ton of stuff today. I'm a big believer in habits. I love habits, but for somebody who's listening it for the first time, they might be feeling overwhelming, right? What small action would you recommend people take right after listening to this episode?
So the big thing is don't change any more than 3 habits at a time. So choose only 3 things that you want to change. Maybe you want to add a gratitude practice in, maybe you want to do a Tabata workout, maybe you want to just do a little follow along meditation, right? Meaning, if you go and search any of my names with any of these 3 things, you'll find lots of information on it. Choose one of these things and just immediately implement it. It is about taking that instant action. It is not about doing something later on. So anything that can be done in 2 minutes or less, do it immediately. So start following these little principles. I think creating principles in life is very important. What is principle? Principle means this is how I am. As soon as you put a principle, you've removed the tripping that happens with choice. A lion will only eat a zebra or a gazelle. It will not suddenly think saying that should I have tindley today? Correct. So it will not question itself on what shall I eat. Our human beings are so problematic with food because we have so much choice. It's called the omnivore's dilemma. There's so many things that we can eat. As a result, we are confused. You make principles and you realize that life goes on much smoother because you know what you will do and what you will not do.
Right. Yeah. I think the instant action is key, and also the foundation, right? You said, I think in your book, like, you can't build a skyscraper with a poor foundation. It's
Your
like
foundation is
have the
critical.
exactly. All right. The second one is regarding books. I mean, I'm a big fan of books. I've read, a ton of books. And then, so when it comes to habits, like, what 3 books would you recommend people read apart from your book, like Change Your Habits and Change Your Life? Like, what 3 books would you recommend people read?
Compounding effect is brilliant. The one that you spoke about, compounding effect. In his other book, Entrepreneurship Roller Coaster, all of those are brilliant. I like his style of writing. Then I think Success Principles is a very nice book. And another one that is great, old classic, is Think and Grow Rich. Think and Grow Rich is such a beautiful book. It's one of those books where you open to any page and it's always relevant to something that you're going through in life. So I think those are 3 books that are very, very vital.
Yep, yeah, brilliant ones. I've read all of them, especially for Think and Grow Rich. Like, whenever I reread, always learn something new. That's just beautiful. It's like timeless. I think it's one of the best-selling books ever. I believe so.
If you want books that are not popular, Buy Back Your Time is a very interesting book on actually creating time, especially for entrepreneurs. Another book that is very nice is Crucial Conversations. Crucial Conversations is all about how, when you have conversations with people, how do you actually have the tough conversations? So that's another one, because having tough conversations is a part of life. So how do we make conversation a part of our habits? Those would be, I think, 2 interesting books that are not super popular, but are possibly good books.
Yes. Yeah, I haven't read Crucial Conversation, but I've read Bye Bye Good Time. I think it's by Dan Martell, I believe.
Correct.
So yeah. It's a good one for sure. Yep. And then the last one is a rapid fire. The first one, like paperback or Kindle. What do you like?
Paperback,
Or in terms of genres, like fiction or non-fiction,
non-fiction,
audiobooks or podcasts,
audiobooks,
morning workout or evening workout.
morning.
The last one, like meditation or journaling.
They're both the same thing. So journaling is a form of meditation. So journaling is what I call intellectual meditation, where you are thinking, and in the process of thinking, you're meditating. So I follow 3 stages of meditation. Journaling, stage 1, mindfulness is stage 2, and then the third stage is a spiritual-based meditation. So it's actually the same thing.
Maybe I want to do a part 2, because I have a ton of questions to ask, especially about podcasts. 1,500 episodes is not an easy joke. I'm on episode 25. It's not an easy feat at all. I would want to pick your brain on when it comes to podcasting, and there are so many questions that we haven't talked about. We'll definitely do a part 2 with that. Ashton, thanks for your time. It's been a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Thank you. My pleasure too.
So how can people learn more about you?
So you can go to ashdindoctor.com. You can check out the Habit Coach podcast on Spotify, wherever you basically listen to your podcasts. We love listening to podcasts more than viewing podcasts. So go back, put a headphone in, go for a walk, listen to a podcast while you're cooking, while you're driving. I think that's the best way of doing this. Obviously, you can get all the books. So you can get Change Your Habits, Change Your Life, 1 Habit a Day, Small Actions, Big Results. They're available on Kindle, paperback, and audiobooks. So I think that's the best way of going in.
Great. I'm going to link all of them in the show notes with that. Ashton, thanks for being on the show.
My pleasure.
Yeah, if you found value in this episode, then please don't forget to subscribe to Compounding Project. Until next time, trust compounding and take action now. Thank you so much for watching or listening. If you enjoyed this episode, can you do me a quick favor and hit that subscribe button? If you like this episode, then you might enjoy this episode, which links in with some of the stuff we talked today. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.